Welcome to this episode of Eureka, and we are going to have a very interesting discussion, and I am absolutely sure all through this program you are going to be wide awake. But interestingly, the topic is going to be on sleep. The expert with whom we are going to converse today is Professor Birendra N Mallick, who is a professor of neurobiology in the School of Life Sciences in Jawaharlal Nehru University, Delhi. Before we start our conversation, let's take a quick look at his brief profile. Keep watching Eureka.
Sleep plays a pivotal role in the well-being of any person. When it is ignored, it can damage both physical and mental health. Researchers say that while we sleep, the brain moves through 5 different stages. One of them is a rapid eye movement or REM sleep. This means the eyes move rapidly in various directions. The function of REM sleep is to stimulate regions of the brain that are needed for learning. Studies show that lack of REM sleep causes certain health conditions, including migraines. Scientists like Professor Birendra N Mallick are working to understand the functions of REM sleep. Professor Mallick presently works with the Neurobiology department in the School of Life Sciences in JNU. Born in Jamalpur, a small village in Bihar, Professor Mallick did his BSc and MSc in Physiology from Calcutta University. After completing his PhD from AIIMS, he joined the School of Life Sciences in Jawaharlal Nehru University as assistant professor in 1986. Since 2001, he has been a full professor of neurobiology and also served the school as dean during 2013 to 2015. The primary focus of Birendra Mallick's research is to understand the neuroanatomical and neurochemical mechanism of REM sleep regulation and to understand the functions of REM sleep. Professor Mallick is the first researcher to start REM sleep research in India and initiate sleep research at JNU, where he established a laboratory for basic sleep research in particular and neurobiology research in general. Professor Birendra Mallick is a recipient of many awards. Noted among them is the Shanti Swarup Bhatnagar Prize in 2001. He was also awarded the J.C. Bose National Fellowship by DST in 2010. He has published more than 130 research papers and book chapters and also has an international patent to his credit.
Sir, thank you for being with us. It's a wonderful opportunity. It's a really very interesting thing. Let me start with a very fundamental question. Sleep, we all say one. But then people like you say that there are many parts to sleep. What are all the major parts of sleep?
Well, historically also we know that during sleep, one sleeps, but within the sleep at certain time, you do dream. So, subjectively though it was known that within sleep there is a wakefulness sort of things, but it was only in the mid-50s it was identified that during sleep period also at certain time the eyes roll over.
Okay.
And the brain waves become like wakefulness, not like sleep. But at the same time, our muscles, primarily those muscles which you move your hand or the legs, they become totally relaxed.
Okay.
Therefore, there is a paradox in their signals. There are certain reasons for
So,
it.
which means to say that kind of brain signals say that you are awake, but your muscle signals say that you are completely relaxed.
In a layman's term, you can say so. Even the eye movement keeps going. And therefore, the term has come, which is known as rapid eye movement sleep.
Okay. So, which means that sleep has 2 parts. Non-rapid.
Primarily,
Okay.
and REM sleep.
Non-REM sleep and the REM,
REM sleep.
Okay.
Which also is said as slow wave sleep and deep sleep and REM sleep.
Okay. Now, you used a term like we dream. But most of us think that, oh, daily I don't dream. Once in a while only I get a dream. Sometimes it's a nightmare. Do you mean to say that whenever we sleep, every day we get a dream-like situation?
It is true that many people, at many instances, we may not remember that. So there is a component of remembrance, but why, that we do not know. But yes, one dreams. every night.
Okay.
But the point is, what we understand till recently, up to recent times, it used to be known that dreams are coming only during REM sleep.
Okay.
But now we know for sure that the dreams generally come during REM sleep, but there may be some dreams which are coming during non-REM sleep as well.
Okay. Okay.
Generally, it is believed, and experimentally it has been found mostly, dreams during REM sleep you remember, others you don't.
Okay.
Now, since I am talking about dream, one may get away with this idea that dreams are coming only during REM sleep, but why should it come at that time? This is my question as well, but there are one group of thought, including mine, that dreams and REM sleep are two phenomena. They overlap at certain times.
Oh, okay. Okay.
But why and what not, people are
So
trying
you are
to
saying that
understand.
the REM is not cause for the dream, or the dream is not cause
Should
for
not be.
it's just co-occurring. Basically.
REM happens.
It's
dream
like, for example, when
comes
we are
in.
eating food, we are also drinking water. It's something like that. I mean, nothing.
Yes, but why do they overlap at certain time? Not always. So therefore, dreams overlap with REM sleep, not REM sleep on it, because dreams come in between in REM sleep.
Okay.
So REM sleep can happen without dream.
We should explore more about your research, but before that, I want to ask some more fundamental question. Like, do all living beings sleep?
Yes,
You mean to say even a single cell organism would sleep?
I would think, but then we have to define what the sleep is. If we are defining sleep the way we talk about in higher animals, we are defining based on electrical waves from the brain.
Okay. The
But
same
if-
definition cannot be used there.
Because they don't have brain. The same way if we talk about ants, if we talk about bees, they have that type of brain? It is not. Therefore, how do we analyze? That is our knowledge limitation than the subject per se.
Even plants then would be in sleep.
I would think, and there are reasons and there are many papers and that they do go into cycles.
Okay.
Now, when and what not, we shouldn't always think like the human sleep only at night and then go. And since I said this, there may be little clarification here. Sleep also you have mono cycle and multicyclic, polycyclic. From the lower species, we have polycyclic sleep, means they sleep multiple times in a day,
Instead of just one so long.
which happens even in babies, in humans.
Oh, okay, okay, okay.
Therefore, they may have all
Let's
those.
coming to the animals. Okay, there are popular myths. For example, whales don't sleep. Do fish sleep? You know, these are all questions people have. Do all animals sleep? Is there any exception?
I do not think, and not that I know of, as per as my knowledge goes, all living systems that will sleep and go into wake. So there is a fundamental wave which is known as BRAC, basic rest activity cycle.
Okay.
Sleep is supposed to be an evolution of basic rest activity.
Okay, so whales do sleep, you mean to say?
They do sleep, and this is a classic work of Jerry Siegel, who has shown that the whales, the mother and the pups, immediately after they're born, they are not sleeping for reasonable time, almost about a month.
Okay.
Now, initially they were of the concern that sleep is not necessary, but with more and more knowledge, what it comes to, most likely the word I am using, that is yet to be proved, they are having hemispheric sleep.
Oh, which means that one part of the brain sleeps while the rest is
Right.
working.
Which has been shown even in dolphins, certainly it is there. Most likely that might happen, and similar thing probably is happening in the birds as well.
See, one of the student who wrote to me asked this very interesting question. For example, albatross. I mean, it flies for many, many, many days, 10,000, 20,000 kilometers non-stop, many, many days. That means that should not be sleeping.
Yes, this is very interesting. The generally concept was those birds are not sleeping. So people thought of possibly they will have certain portion of the brain will sleep and certain not. Recently, I think 2014 Nature Communication, 14 or 16, by Niels Rattenborg. There he has shown that these birds are having hemispheric sleep, but at certain times they both of them go into sleep. Possibly a sort of probably though go into auto mode.
Yeah,
But
when the
how
long
does
distance,
that happen? Probably that could be dangerous, but maybe in evolution that is how they have adapted to it.
in fact, actually, it's known. For example, when you are flying long distance carrier, the pilots do put the plane into autopilot and then take some sleep. I mean, when you are
Exactly.
traveling for 8 hours, 10 hours continuously, people do know. Maybe the birds are also doing it, and it's a very, very
Possibly,
interesting
yes.
stuff. We will take a very short break here, but we'll continue this conversation. We'll take a very short break. After the break, we are going to ask this question: why do we need to sleep? Why sleep as a function is essential for living beings? Keep watching Eureka. We'll take a very short break. Don't go away. Welcome back to Eureka, and we are having a very wonderful discussion with Dr. Birendra N Mallick, who is a professor of neurobiology in the School of Life Sciences in Jawaharlal Nehru University, Delhi. Before the break, I told the audience that we'll ask you this question: why do we need to sleep?
See, sleep is an instinct phenomenon. The way I was, if we continue the way I said, is a basic rest activity cycle for any living system. This is an evolved form. Therefore, if the sleep is disturbed, most of the functions get disturbed in our body, and the quantum and quality might vary.
Okay.
So far, there has not been any disorder where sleep has not been shown, or sleep disturbance has not been shown. And if there is sleep disturbance, something or other gets affected. Now, if that happens, certainly it cannot be of vestigial. Now, the question is how much we can identify, and if it is so, can we think of, or is it right to think there will be only one aspect as a nodal thing which will get affected, and then that will affect all of them? Well, it can take an analogy. These days we have instruments where we can have a modular system. So here also it will not be right on our part to think the nature has created something like heart that if stops everything goes off. Therefore, it will be, yes, it affects most of the
like
system.
in a computer, for example, maybe your CD drive is gone, but the rest of the computer
Yes,
works.
but then
maybe
CDs
one of your pen drive port is gone, but the rest is working.
Right. But then if the power fails, everything can
fails.
go. So sleep does feed into all of them, but depending on the intensity of loss, it will. Therefore, with some loss, certain functions get lost. But if it becomes chronic, then everything gets disturbed haywire, and then it becomes very difficult even for the clinicians to bring back the patient, which happens with the sleep disordered patients. When they go to the doctor, the doctor also doesn't know how does it start, had it started earlier. Even the patient doesn't know how did it start, and then gets complicated.
Now, coming to your specific work, I mean, you have established this sleep research center. Where you are trying to study REM sleep and then trying to understand it in depth in this particular institute, and that's been one of your founding contribution in this institution. If I ask you, what have you discovered? What would you list them as?
What I wanted to, my basic work is on to understand the neural mechanism of REM sleep regulation, means how does the brain regulate it, and then what is the function of this REM sleep. Now, to tell you what is REM sleep, as I was saying, when most of the dreams come, but then importantly, this is the phase when any human being spends the least amount of time, day-to-day time as well as through life. But then how does it contribute to so much? This is one of the major questions which we are trying to address.
So now you said two parts. One is that how brain regulates REM sleep. The second is what is the function of REM sleep. So let's start with the second one, slightly more interesting. What is the function? What do you think are the function? What does your research tell us, or what does it indicate to?
See, as regards the function of REM sleep, there has been many studies from many groups across the globe. depending on whether the REM sleep loss is affecting the heart function or be it any other cardiovascular disorder, to metabolic disorder, to memory disorder, to what is happening, why did it come through the animal kingdom, whether to keep the brain at what stage. But then my question was, since it is so fundamental, can it affect a fundamental principle of the brain functioning? Therefore, what I proposed, the fundamental difference of the REM neuron as compared to any other cell, that these have excitable property.
Okay.
And therefore, we behave a different manner. And therefore, if the excitability level changes, be it for our behavior to heart function to anything, that function will get affected.
Yeah.
Therefore, I started with that the primary factor which maintains excitability of a neuron is known as sodium potassium ATPase.
Okay.
And this lab showed in 93 that how does REM sleep loss affects this enzyme and thereby possibly affecting neurons. And
Okay.
since 90s till now, we have gone through how the entire process is taking place from the biochemical process up to gene level, how things are working, and we are still continuing on it.
Okay, so this is about the function. Now coming to the second part, which is regulation. So what says your research point to?
See, my way of thinking is, for example, if we talk about a car, the function of car is moving and carrying some load. Now, if the mechanism of car motor gets affected, the function will get affected.
Yeah.
It cannot go the reverse way. Therefore, my way of thinking, when the functional loss is taking place, there must be some mechanistic loss taking place, and then they should be correlated, and I should do that. That is what, when I started with, we did not have much idea. So this lab, my students have shown that the so-called GABA interneuron model that we have shown, you can show those models here. Ultimately, what it comes to, there are noradrenergic neurons which normally go off during REM sleep. But in a disorder, means REM sleep loss, they continue activity.
Okay, okay. So it is not functioning properly.
Not functioning certainly, but they keep on being active. And if it is so, my hypothesis was the noradrenaline level is high and the brain gets flooded. And that should be at least a key reason for majority of the disorders.
Okay.
So with time, we have shown, yes, noradrenaline level does go up. And that is the reason why the neurons are breaking down, ATPase activity is going up, and how the apoptosis is taking place. To the extent what we have shown with the modern technology, if in those neurons, if we do not allow the synthesis of those noradrenaline,
Okay.
then allow the animal to go into deprivation, still those symptoms are not coming.
Okay.
So this is now has come to a step that which can be probably taken out of lab to the bedside.
Okay.
This is what we think.
At this
And
point of time.
therefore, this paper, even in eNeuro, was selected even for Neuro Online, where they selected for other students for getting these studies to take forward as well.
You are talking about exploring two areas. One is how does the brain regulate, the other is what kind of functions the REM does. What was your lab specific contribution with regard to regulation of REM sleep?
Yeah, as I said, that the way I would understand that if the function is to be lost, the regulatory mechanism also has to be affected.
Okay.
In that sense, as we know, there are neurons which go off during REM sleep, but we did not know how does it go off. So this lab has contributed what we classically at this moment will know the GABA interneuron based model, but that can be read in the review. But since it is for the general audience, I would put it this way, which is more exciting, that this GABA interneuron based model, this concept came to me to find a biological lever.
Okay.
Why this comes? I used to be fascinated as a child, as a class 5, 6, sometime when we read physics, the liver system, and when I used to see the steam engine, the piston moves vertical and then something moves horizontal, which turns the wheel. So I wanted to make something as a biological liver.
Okay.
That helped me to bring in which something will excite and inhibit another one to put in the inhibitory GABA interneuron.
That's an interesting point. Very interesting, but we need to take a very small break. After the break, I'm going to ask him a very puzzling question. If somebody acts that person is sleeping, how do they find out? Keep watching Eureka. After the break, we'll come back and continue the conversation. Welcome back to Eureka, and we are having a very wonderful conversation with Professor Birendra N Mallick, Professor of Neurobiology in the School of Life Sciences in Jawaharlal Nehru University in Delhi. Let me ask you this question. How did you come to this studying sleep? People would have laughed at you, right, when you chose to study sleep?
Well, that I do not know whether people laughed at me or not. At least I didn't laugh. And this is an interesting topic. After my master's, I wanted to do PhD, so I kept moving from Calcutta to Vishwabharati, to Banaras, to Patna, to Allahabad, to Delhi, Madras, Bangalore, and decided to do PhD at AIMS. And there I started my research career as a PhD student with Professor Mohan Kumar.
Okay.
And I learned there, and there only I started with sleep.
The other question that I want to ask you is that how did you got motivated into doing science? Most people would have thought, okay, a good government job, a job in a bank, maybe IAS officer. Science, why did you choose it?
No, those government job was not very appealing to me from the very beginning. From the childhood, I always wanted to understand the human body and the mind. That always used to fascinate me. And more so, any question I like. I mean, even my students will talk about always trying to question things without a question. So that started with. So not that great anything.
Okay. We also heard that you had a very wonderful, interesting episode related to a patient who was suffering from ChrisPAN syndrome, and the doctor contacted you, and then, can you tell us this story?
Yes, this is very interesting story, and I think it's quite inspiring. At least it was inspiring to me that how does basic science contributes, and one doesn't know where and how does it come. And that drives a scientist, I guess. Here it was around 2010, if I remember correct. There is one Dr. Frank from Germany wrote to me that he had a patient, his interests are rare genetic disorder. As a pediatrician, he had a patient in his ward where the patient was sweating even at very low ambient temperature like 18, 19 degrees.
18, 19 degrees you were sweating?
Ambient.
Okay.
And he was sweating.
Uh-huh.
I don't know, he or she, the
Okay.
child, a teenager. And the symptom was, or not symptom, the other thing was his blood noradrenaline level was very high, about 4 or 5 times.
Okay.
He contacted me because my work also had noradrenaline, temperature and sleep regulation. So to tell you frank, I was very elated that somebody contacted me, but I was very scared that because he's treating human being and I'm doing basic science, I never thought of somebody will contact me as an expert, that too at the international arena. So I took some time from him, and after 3-4 days when I wrote to him that because of these reasons I will treat the patient with this type of drug, I didn't name the drug, but I said as a generic alpha-2 agonist for this reason, but I wrote to him underlined and bold letters, be very careful, don't blame me, you are treating a patient. To my utter surprise, and I was so happy, prompt came the response within about 2 hours that this is the line they had taken and they had treated the patient about a month before they wrote to me with those principles and the same drug.
Okay.
And the patient improved.
Okay.
Then that followed, and he requested me to help in writing, because that is how, from my interpretation, he had treated. This October, I went for a meeting, so he invited me to his place, and he said they are still treating the patient with this. So that gives a satisfaction that how some basic science somewhere, and who picks it up and might be useful for patient care for human benefit.
Okay. We don't have much time, but this question I should certainly ask you. A general belief among people is that don't be sleepy, you should be active. So a lot of people, young and old today, think that it's better not to sleep and then as much as possible keep awake. Late night, early morning, you go to sleep for very, very small number of hours. What do you think about it?
No, this is absolutely incorrect. What it says, you should remain active. You don't mix them up. Don't sleep when you want to be active. Don't try to remain active when you want to be asleep.
Okay.
Sleep is also an active process, and it should be getting due credit.
So you should be actively sleeping.
You should be actively sleeping.
Very interesting.
And therefore, as I like this sentence, though it is, I have written these few lines in one of the ending note of one of the editorials. Never sleep on sleep, and don't lose sleep on lost sleep. Wise sleep when sleepy, lest you become sleepery.
Very interesting, very interesting. How much should people generally sleep? Let's say young teenager, old person, what's the kind of rule of thumb?
See, there will be a wide variation because every individual is different. It is like our food habit. So certainly there is a component of habit, but it is overriding on a basic need. Certainly, since sleep is important for brain development and body development and every other thing, the children and the babies need more. With time it is reduces, but it never ends.
Okay.
Having said this, there should be a thumb rule the way you are asking for an adult. It varies again, say about 4.5 hours to 9 hours.
Okay.
It depends on person to person, type of work, the cheerfulness and many other things. But if there are more or less than this, one should be concerned. But if it happens for one or twice times, don't worry about it. People should not get worried too much. But if it continues, then certainly one should go to a specialized doctor to address it.
That's a very interesting and that's a very interesting note. Be active on sleep. Don't sleep on sleep. This is a very interesting point. Keep watching Eureka. We'll come back with a very interesting conversation next week with another interesting expert. Keep watching Eureka.